California's Golden Parks is made possible by Toyota, who is committed to keeping the air clean at all our beautiful parks with its hybrid Synergy drive technology. In vehicles like the innovative Prius, Highlander Hybrid, and the Camry Hybrid. Lower emissions and higher gas mileage help hybrid Synergy drive vehicles create a minimal impact on the environment. So take a deep breath, relax, and enjoy another one of California's Golden Parks.
Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell Hauser, and here we are on this beautiful morning in Orange County near the city of Irvine. Now we are walking down Santiago Canyon Road, which is this nice little two-lane paved road, but we have decided that we want to leave the highway and have an adventure today. And look where we're going. We're going back here into the country. We're going way back into the boonies. We've got 50,000 acres over here, and we've been told that this is some of the prettiest and most interesting countryside in all of California. And what makes all of this so special is that all of it is in one of California's golden parks.
I love you, California. You're the greatest state of all. I love you in the winter, summer, spring, and in the fall. I love your fertile valleys, your dear mountains I adore. I love your grand old ocean, and I love a rugged shore.
Okay, we have hit the trail, and Trish, this is a I tell you what, where are we? We're in the country somewhere, aren't we?
We sure are. We're on the Irvine Ranch Land Reserve. This is Limestone Canyon, which is situated in the foothills of the Santa Ana Mountains here in Orange County.
Now, you know what? We haven't been off that paved road very long, but looking out here, we could be literally 1,000 miles away from civilization.
Yet, we're within 3 miles of the Irvine spectrum and within half hour's driving distance of 4 million residents.
All right, now when you talk about Irvine, the Irvine spectrum, the city of Irvine, the Irvine Ranch, Kathy, you're from the Irvine Company, and around these parts the name Irvine is pretty well known, isn't it?
It certainly is. There's really a very interesting history to this land, starting with an Irish immigrant by the name of James Irvine, who bought this land with several partners back in the mid-1800s. He ended up as the sole owner eventually and used the land primarily for ranching sheep and cattle and agriculture, barley and beans and all kinds of things.
Lots of barley and lots of beans and lots of ranching. This was a huge area owned by the Irvines.
It certainly was, and today it's still 93,000 acres, and over half of that, 50,000 acres, is, land like this.
All right, when you say land like this, coming from the Nature Conservancy, this must make your little heart just beat fast when you come out here and see things like these beautiful big oaks, all of this land undisturbed. It used to be grazing land, didn't it?
Right. It was grazed from the late 1700s up until the early 90s. That's when the Nature Conservancy came on the scene and started working with the Irvine Company. And since that time, Limestone Canyon has really been managed for public use, recreation, and habitat. So
now, are we in Limestone Canyon right now?
Right now, we're in Limestone Canyon on Dripping Springs Trail.
Boy, all these names have great names to them. Dripping Springs Trail.
Yes.
Now, how did you come up with that name?
I didn't come up with that name. Fortunately, it's got a long ranching history here, and so the cowboys that occupied this area and that grazed cattle, they put all the names to the trails. So.
Well, that's what's going to be interesting today, because everywhere we're going to be has a lot of touch with California history, because not only is it this natural beauty, but in the past, in the 1800s, the 1900s, this was all used as part of our economy, with ranching, with sheep, with cattle.
It was, and we're still connected to it by having the land still exist today. So I think we're very lucky to have it.
All right, we're getting ready to. We've just started our adventure, haven't we?
We sure
we're
have.
We're just on the fringes. But if this is any indication of what's ahead of us today, I think we're all in for a treat. 50,000 acres of land, and all of it is here for us. Well, we're not going to see most of it today.
No, but we're going to see a beautiful chunk of it. Oak woodlands, native grasslands, coastal sage scrub. It's all here.
As we actually start our journey here, I am just amazed at the way this looks and feels. It's so lush and thick. Is this the way canyons used to look in Southern California?
This is very representative of Southern California's natural diversity. A lot of our urban areas that are now covered in asphalt once looked like this.
Because look at this. This is just, I hope the camera can pick this up, because it's not just the physical beauty, it's the way it feels.
Yeah, I find it very comforting to be out here. It just really lifts your spirits and makes you feel part of something that's much bigger. It's the diversity out here. It's just an incredible place.
Now, when you talk about diversity, you know, we found out earlier that there used to be lots of grazing here, and that started with the Spanish.
Correct, in the 1700s. And then it was part of the Irvine Ranch, and they grazed sheep and then cattle.
But don't sheep pretty well eat everything?
Yeah, they do. And you can really see the signs of historic sheep grazing if you get into kind of a bigger picture view of the whole Limestone Canyon area. But remarkably, despite the historic grazing, it still supports an abundance of native wildlife and plant diversity.
Look out through here.
Yeah.
This is just so beautiful. Now, how is this set up? Who can, you know, like if I wanted to come hiking through here, how does that work?
Well, you just give a call to the Nature Conservancy or contact us online through the internet, and we can set you up with a docent to take a hike, mountain bike ride, or equestrian ride out here.
All right, we're hiking it today. We're not on bikes or on horseback, but what do? Just walk through this area and just look and soak it all in?
Well, we've got, I think about, for Limestone Canyon, 13 different trail options. You can either do a 2.5-mile quick hike, you can do a 10-mile loop, you can do a 15-mile loop, or you can go on native plant walks or bat hikes. There's a whole diversity of types of activities you can do, whether you're interested in the natural history, geology, or just want to get out here and on a quiet time and experience the trees and the birds.
Yeah, I think we're on the oak hike right now because there are oaks everywhere.
Yeah, Limestone Canyon is one of the finest examples of oak woodlands in Southern California. And the thing that's really unique about Limestone Canyon is the oaks are reproducing. In a lot of our areas of Southern California, oaks have not been able to reproduce because of historic grazing practices and competition with some of our weedy grasses.
Yeah. Now, didn't you say there was a wildfire here just a couple of years ago?
1998, the Santiago fire burned about 9,000 acres of Limestone Canyon. The thing that's interesting or important in thinking about our wildland areas is that Limestone Canyon is part of a much larger natural system, and such that when the area burned, there was enough adjacent, protected, unburned habitat that was able to serve as a refuge for the animals to escape the fire. So being part of a much larger system will ensure that this area sustains its diversity over the long term.
Look at this out here. Now there's a lot of open hillside area here as well.
Yeah, we call that the Lomas de Santiago, or the Santiago Hills, St. James Hills in English. And the landscape features, the variation in topography, all contribute to the diversity here.
So there's a little bit of everything.
There really is.
Here.
There really is.
This is just, were there Native Americans here? I'm thinking of all these questions, because this would have been a great place to live.
Yes, the Gabrieleños and the Juaneños, The oak resources, we don't know much about exactly what they did in Limestone Canyon, but the abundance of the oak trees and the acorn resources probably made it a really great spot. In addition, there's lots of springs here, water supply, so it was probably a good hangout for the Native American.
We have left the trail for just a minute to come over here because I just wanted to stand under these magnificent oaks, and it's cooler down here, it's greener down here, so we must be getting close to Dripping Springs.
That's right. The source of all this lush vegetation is Dripping Springs up ahead of us.
And you hear birds everywhere out here. What kind of birds are we talking about?
Well, we've got over 100 species of birds that occupy Limestone Canyon. The acorn woodpecker is probably one of the most distinctive birds found in the oak woodland community, but it also supports numerous hawk or raptor species, owls, red-tailed hawks, red-shouldered hawks.
And what kind of animals around here?
We have a lot of pocket gopher activity around here.
Pocket gophers,
Yeah.
That doesn't sound good.
Well, no, they're actually a very important fossorial animal in our native grassland communities. They help keep the soil rototilled so that seeds can get established on the little mounds they create.
I just went into one of those little mounds.
Yeah, you gotta watch it. That's why we stay on trail.
Yeah, you would bring that up because as we were leaving the trail, you brought up the fact that we were doing something we're not supposed to do.
Right. We try to keep our groups on, our visitors on trail so that we can limit our disturbance to the trail so we can view the natural features from a safe distance on a nice trail that's more even, and make sure that people, stay away from poison oak and the like. So.
All right, so we'll get back on the trail.
Yeah.
Let's just get out of the way and take another look at these oaks, because I don't think I've ever seen a stand of oaks as beautiful as right over here.
These trees are probably several hundred years old.
As we continue our tour, we've hooked up with John, one of the docents here who leads the tours. And John, this is our first sight of something that's actually looks like it was man-made. What is the story on this big old, I guess this is a water tank, isn't it?
Absolutely. This is a remnant of the days when cattle was on this property by the Irvine Ranch Company and before. And Dripping Springs is up about another 150 yards. It's the only continuously running spring in Orange County.
Wait a minute. It's the only continuously running spring in all of Orange County?
Absolutely. Now, it doesn't run a great flow, and we'll see it in a few minutes. But the water during the winter time was sufficient so that the ranchers could gather the water in these tanks. During the summertime, when all of the other water had stopped, then they could pipe this water down to the canyon floor into water troughs for the cattle.
So this wasn't for people, this was for cattle.
Absolutely, for cattle.
And it's been left behind. I don't think there's any water in it these days.
No. You'll see some more remnants of some of the plumbing that was used to transport this water down to the canyon floor for animal use, though, not human.
And this gives you something to talk about when you're leading these tours, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Most of the time when I'm up here, I'm on horseback, and equestrians can identify with cattle and cattle use and the use of the land for those kinds of purposes.
Yeah, you're kind of slumming it with us today walking. You're used to being on horseback, which is another interesting way to see this reserve.
Oh, absolutely. We have three main kinds of docents: equestrian, hiking, and mountain biking. So depending upon what your personal interest is and how you want to see the wilderness, we can accommodate you.
Well, if you were on horseback through here, you would be seeing it the way those old, well, starting with the Spanish, the ranch foremen, the cowboys would have been riding all through here when this was all cattle and sheep country.
Absolutely, and don't think that those visions don't go through your mind when you're riding through here on horseback.
We are hiking through lots of beautiful plants, lots of berry bushes, and lots of poison oak, John.
You got it, Huell.
Lots of poison oak. Now, you have to warn everybody about that.
First thing I do usually on a ride, equestrian ride, is point out where the poison oak is. A lot of people, believe it or not, can't identify it, so I identify it for them.
Poison oak has 5 leaves.
Correct. We're standing right on some right there.
Right in it.
Yes, we are.
Now, you don't bring your horses up here.
No, normally we tie up about 150 yards down the trail. There's a nice wide spot in the trail where we can tack up and leave them there. You better believe, in 95-degree weather, it feels good to get off your horse and walk up here where it's about 20 degrees cooler.
We have arrived at Dripping Springs, and here to greet us, introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, Michael Hurst, Huell.
You're another one of the docents here.
Yeah, I am.
Now tell us about good old Dripping Springs, because look at this. There are ferns everywhere. There's water everywhere. There's dripping going on everywhere.
You can hear it. This is one of my favorite places on the whole reserve. This is Dripping Springs. Perhaps you saw the water tank down below in the canyon. Water would be collected here, taken through this pipe down to the water tank down there and stored for the cattle over the summertime. Now this pipe is particularly interesting. It's all riveted. So this piece was put together in pieces. This is a very old piece of pipe, maybe 150 years old or more. Wow. Yeah, it's still here. So
now, how did the springs get the name Dripping Springs?
Well, the dripping part is pretty apparent. This is one of maybe the only or one of very few year-round water supplies in the county. And what happens is the water falls as rainfall, and then we don't know how long it takes, but it may be years, several years, before it actually percolates down to an impermeable layer and then moves sideways. And then it comes out at this cliff face and drips. Wow. And in the hottest time of the year and the driest year, it's still dripping.
Now, there's not a lot of running water here. This looks pretty low-key right here.
Well, it's not a huge flow, but this used to be a catch basin right there where they'd catch as much of it as they could and pipe it down to the water tank. So, you know, dripping 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, there's a fair amount of water.
Yeah. Wow, this is, do you think the Native Americans had to know about this?
Guarantee you that they knew about this place.
Yeah, and there's more water here than meets the eye, because when you look over here, all of this rock face here is all wet.
It's all wet, and it's all got ferns growing on it, mosses. It's obviously wet most of the year, if not all of the year. Then the canyon down below it is very green and lush. So this is a tremendous asset. If you were a rancher and you had a year-round supply of water, you were in heaven.
You never know what you're going to find when you walk around the Irvine Ranch Land Reserve, because, Trish, we have come upon, this is about as beautiful a stand of cactus, and they're all out in this area here.
Yeah, it's cactus scrub is one of the types of coastal sage scrub that we find out here, another very important natural plant community here in Southern California. And there's over 13 types of scrub found on the Irvine Ranch, and cactus scrub is one of the more important ones. It supports the cactus wren, which is a really rare declining species in Southern California, but it's doing great here.
Wow, this is absolutely beautiful. And Michael, when you bring your tours here, what do you tell them? Because I know they must have a lot of questions about these cactus.
Well, I like to refer to these patches as sort of the Walmart of the coastal sage scrub. There's everything you could want here if you're a little rodent. There's seeds there's fruits, seeds. There's moisture in the pads. There's protection. This is just pretty much heaven for a wood rat.
So wait a minute, this is full of wood rats.
I would guarantee you that there's several wood rat nests in this patch of cactus.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah, wood rats are another declining species in Southern California. They inhabit our coastal sage scrub and oak woodlands, and they make a home here.
So this is, you know, I was just stopping to look at it because of the beauty of the cactus here, but it has a very practical meaning as well.
Yeah, you know, you really see here in Southern California kind of a conglomeration of influences from the desert, from the ocean, from the montane, all converging in habitats like coastal sage scrub. Cactus is definitely more associated with the desert, but there's desert influences here, and that's why it occurs here.
Yeah, because we just left Dripping Springs with all of the ferns and the water and
very moist environment, and out here it's very dry, and it'll get drier as the summer goes on. But you can see these flowers have been gnawed off by the rats. Pads over here have been chewed by the rats. So they're making a living on these cactus patches.
Wow, this is just beautiful. And you can eat these as well.
Oh, don't touch that.
Oh, I keep wanting to. Yeah. I'm sorry.
You'd be picking glaucids out of your fingertips for the rest of the day. It's not the spines, but these little hairs are very irritating.
Walking through here, there is so much to see. It's like almost every time you turn a corner, there's something new.
Yeah, there's lots of mini destinations here in Limestone Canyon. That's what really makes it attractive for our visitors.
Now, speaking of attractive, You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, you were talking about this lovely mustard over here, which of course is not native to the area.
So there's a lot of native stuff here. There's a lot of stuff that was introduced by the Europeans. And Michael, you have a good story that you tell when you give your tour.
Yeah, one of the stories about the mustard is that the Padres spread the seeds as they went from mission to mission, so that to mark the El Camino Real. So there was this trail of gold up and down California.
Now, is that a real story?
Sure hope so.
I mean, is it just a trail lore, or is this? It sounds great. I'm getting this mental picture of the Padres throwing out the mustard seed.
Well, there's another variation that they'd use it to mark the mission so that they could see it from the ships out to sea and know where to put in. So either way, it's a very great story.
Well, they're great stories, and Trish, these actually, even though they're invasive, are beautiful plants out here.
Well, this is actually summer mustard, and it's not nearly as bad as the black mustard. The black mustard is what really takes over, but the summer mustard, it's more innocuous.
Yeah, and look at this, because this is just, I mean, you really get a real view of where we are now, too.
Yeah, it gives you a real sense of scale and how big this area really is.
And I like the relationship between the oaks and the hillsides, the rolling hills that are almost barren except for the grasses.
That's what makes this place so beneficial for wildlife, the mosaic of habitats, the grasslands, the scrub, the oak woodlands. Supports a greater diversity of plants and animals that way.
It just keeps getting better, and this is the ultimate surprise right here, Trish. What in the world is this?
Well, we call this the Sphinx. It's a unique geologic formation here in Limestone Canyon, and it's a major destination for our visitors. And it's just a remarkable geologic formation that came about as a result of uplift and erosion.
The Sphinx?
Yes.
And how long ago, now I'm going to ask you the questions that people ask you when you're giving the tours. How long ago did this happen, and what made it happen?
Well, geologically, they say it happened very recently, sometime in the last million years. So what made it happen is that there's a lot of things going on here. There's an earthquake fault that runs through here. There's several different rock formations. Obviously the uplift, and then the erosion, a big landslide. You can see, just looks like part of it just dropped down, and that's exactly what happened.
I've never seen anything like this. This has got to be the ultimate surprise when you come here and walk around. Or ride around.
It's quite a thrill when you're on horseback and you come down this trail. I never tell anybody that we're getting close. They've heard of the Sphinx, but they really don't know what it is. And they get right about where your cameraman is, and then they can turn to their right, and it just bursts upon them. It's wonderful.
I've never seen anything like this in California.
Yeah, well, it's our own mini Grand Canyon.
I'm trying to think of what it reminds you of, and that in a funny kind of way is what it is. It's kind of like a Grand Canyon, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Of the 4 million people that live in this area, there are probably, less than 15,000 that can say they've seen the Sphinx. And we'd like to double that figure over the next few years.
Wow. Well, this gives you this amazing vista, too.
Yeah.
But just to stand here and look at this and realize that this happened within the last million years, and imagine what it would have been like to have been here. Did it all drop at once?
Probably a lot of it happened pretty quickly. Geology's like that. More can happen in 10 seconds than in 10,000 years. So,
well, I don't think I would have wanted to have been here when this thing fell.
And it keeps eroding. You can see on that cliff face over there a bit of slumpage that's happened, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger. Now the sinks are about a mile across, but it's getting gradually bigger through the years.
Wow, this is huge and amazing, and it's as big as it is. I think what's so amazing about it is like you say, for most people in Southern California, this is still a secret.
Absolutely. Best kept secret in Orange County.
Well, we are ending our adventure right here on the edge, literally and figuratively, because we are standing here right on the edge of this reserve, looking out into the development that has become Orange County.
Right.
And Trish, what I find so interesting about this day is that the places we have been today are spectacular, but on another level, it really gives you pause for thinking back, doesn't it?
200 years ago, this is what all of Southern California looked like, and it really provides us a chance to step out into these wilderness areas and really experience what it was like 200 years ago in these oak woodlands and grasslands and scrub of Southern California.
You know, it's hard for us who live in urban California today to believe that this is the way it was not that many years ago.
Yeah, I'm much more comfortable out here in the wilderness than I am down there.
Yeah.
And it really provides it really makes your life livable. If you have the hectic day-to-day living in the urban environment, these places provide a respite for us humans and also provide wonderful habitat for hundreds of plant and wildlife species.
Yeah, and it's so great that people can come up here and enjoy it the way we have today. Thank you very much for giving us the tour. Thank you very much for you get to give people these tours all the time. And
all the time.
So you're used to the kind of excitement that you've seen us have here today, because it's a surprise.
It's great to share it with other people.
Well,
I love it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. And Kathy, this is a real tribute to the Irvine Company, because even though the Irvine Company is building all over Southern California, they have also had the wisdom and the foresight to set aside large areas of land like this to preserve the way they are.
You're right. Over half of what they own is set aside forever as open space.
And the idea is that if we come back here 100 years from now, it'll look basically just like this?
Exactly like this, and hopefully this pretty of a day.
Yeah. Well, if we come back 100 years from now, we won't look like this, but the land will, because the land has been here for a long time, and this has been a wonderful snapshot of the way Southern California used to look, and this section of land still looks like today. The Irvine Ranch Land Reserve, which is definitely one of California's golden parks.
I love you, California. You're the greatest state of all. I love you in the winter, summer, spring, and in the fall. I love your fertile valleys, your dear mountains I adore. I love your grand old ocean, and I love a rugged shore.
Hello, everybody. I'm Huell Hauser, and I sure hope you enjoyed our visit to the Irvine Ranch Land Reserve in Orange County. If you'd like to go on this adventure again or share it with your family and friends, it's available on video cassette and on DVD. All you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727, and we'll be glad to send it to you right away.
This presentation of California's Golden Parks was made possible by Toyota, who wants you to get out and see these incredible parks for yourself. Toyota is committed to preserving their natural beauty with its hybrid synergy drive technology in vehicles like the Prius, Highlander Hybrid, and Camry Hybrid. Lower emissions and higher gas mileage help hybrid synergy drive vehicles have a minimal impact on our natural wonders. We'll see you next time on California's Golden Parks.